Hey, what is going on, guys? My name is Blazekiller, and today we are back with another video. In today's video, I want to bring you guys a trading and guide and an avoid scamming guide. I've been on YouTube and I've searched for different guides for trading and avoiding scams, and I haven't found any. So I want to bring you guys a nice resource here, a nice guide, complete guide to trading and avoiding scams in Lumber Tycoon 2. Now, let's start with trading. Trading is obviously a massive part of Lumber Tycoon 2. I've been trading for so long, and other people have been trading so long as well. And this kind of goes hand in hand with scamming, of course, because scamming happens sometimes when trading. But we'll talk about that later. Trading is obviously a main source of revenue, a main source of income for a lot of, if not the majority of Lumber Tycoon 2 people and players. And obviously, when trading, one player purchases items from another person, rather than from NPCs or from shops, for example, and that allows the people to access certain exclusive and limited time items. Now, a good rule of thumb when trading, I think you should probably have a shop. If you don't already have a shop, have some way to display your items. If you're looking to sell some of your items, it makes it easier for your potential customers, potential buyers to see things. And another tip when trading is sell items that are limited time, that are hard to obtain. For example, the Rickery Axe or the End Times Axe. The End Times Axe being only available on Halloween or certain gifts from different events that are now no longer available in the game. Players are much more likely to buy limited time items or hard to obtain items when they have them on your base. So try to have those things as the things you are actually selling. Now, trading specific items. Let's talk about trading unboxed axes. So when trading an unboxed axe, the seller will equip the axe that he is selling, right? And then the buyer transfers the money for the axe, whatever the price is that the seller is asking for. The seller whitelists the person, drops the axe, and by pressing backspace or by whatever your drop item or drop button is, and then the buyer can then pick up the axe from there. Now, if you're trying to trade boxes or loose items or wood even, it gets a little bit tricky, and this is where scamming can take place, unfortunately. But we'll talk about how to avoid those the best as possible in a second. Now, trading loose items is more complicated. As I said, after the buyer transfers the money to the seller to purchase these specific items, the seller will hopefully whitelist the buyer and put the items on the other person's base, or if they're not already on there, put them on their base. I'll talk about the safest strategy to trade in just a second here. The seller will either then reload the base while still being whitelisted, or donate $1 to the buyer while still being whitelisted, and while those items are on the buyer's land. Now, by either reloading the base while whitelisted or donating $1 to the buyer, the ownership will be transferred to the buyer, and the seller will no longer have access to the item. So again, reloading the base or sending money to the other person, the seller sending money or however much money to the buyer. Should just be one, right? You're not going to send them too much. That's a brief introduction into trading. We'll talk about more trading here with the safest method to trade, as well as just a few tips for avoiding scams. Let's talk about the avoiding scams really quickly. Now, scamming is unfortunately a part of this game because there's really no proper trading system within this game. Trading really wasn't meant to be a thing in the first place, so there's very loose rules, very loose abilities to trade in this game in the first place. Scamming happens for one reason only: people are evil, and sometimes people take away items after receiving payment for them, and they never actually give the person the item they're looking for. Now, a couple precautions. Never trade with someone who has a history of scamming. So say your friend, for example, told you about a certain gamer tag to avoid. Don't trade with that person, even if the person has a really good offer, or they're saying that they have changed, they're not going to scam you again. No, don't listen to that person. Don't trade with that person. If someone's acting suspiciously, trying to change their offer, or speaking in a different language, or just being confusing, don't trade with that person either. There are a couple ways to trade. I'll give you two specific ways, and then the safest way, the third way to trade. Now, you can ask players to put their items on your base before you send them the money, as I was speaking about before. So they put the items on your base, you send them the money, they whitelist you, then they either send you $1 or you reload their base while still whitelisted. Now, there's obviously an opportunity to be scammed there. Say the other person does not whitelist you, but instead takes the items back in their car and drives off, or whatever the case may be. There's also that works vice versa, whether you're trying to buy someone or buy something from someone, or they're trying to buy something from you. You can also use the strategy of having the customer, or this could work in the opposite scenario as well, bringing the items a little bit off of the land. That way, let's just say you have a customer, someone's trying to buy something off of you. You bring the items that they want to buy a little bit off of your land. You blacklisted them so that they don't, go back onto your base when you whitelist them after they send you the money, if that makes sense. So after you whitelist them, they can't go back into your base because they're blacklisted, but they can now grab the item. So those are a couple strategies, and really the safest strategy is going to be more like the first strategy that I talked to you about. Now say player 1, let's just say player 1, player 2. Player 1 decides to buy something from player 2. And so player 2 brings the items to player 1's plot, player 1's base. So player 1 pays player 2, and the first player then has really the option to blacklist the person from there. You say, why might they do that? Well, if the person player 2 tries to take the items back after being paid, then player 1 can see that they're doing that, and hopefully that the person's well on their base. They're not going to actually just not going to fail to have enough time to blacklist them, for example. So have player 2 bring the items that you're trying to buy, well into your base, right? And tell them to take it out of the car if it is in a vehicle, because that makes it easier for them to run off with it, right? So if they are trying to run off with it though, then blacklist them. What does that do? So that doesn't completely solve the issue, but it potentially might, and hopefully will. Now player 2 is back on their base, or back at spawn, probably their base, I think, right? And their items are stuck on your base. Now you aren't whitelisted, right? But the items aren't on their base. So there's a couple of things that could happen here. This person could end up whitelisting you and be like, well, I don't want to lose my stuff, because if they leave the game with their items in someone else's base, they disappear. No one gets it at that point. So either no one gets it or you get it at this point, right? If the player decides to be nice enough not really nice enough, moral enough, good enough to whitelist you so you can actually grab the items, then hopefully that's going to be the case. This essentially makes it possible for player 1 to deny player 2 the access to his or her items. This is the safest method. I will repeat it really quickly. You want to buy something from someone else. That person brings that item to your base, or those items. Have them take them out of the vehicle that they're in, and you send them the money. Okay? Now, player 2 hopefully is going to whitelist you. If not, if the person tries to take those items back to their base, you blacklist them. Those items are now on your base. This person has no longer access to them unless they leave the game, in which case the items are not theirs or yours, really. So they no longer have access to them at all. But seeing that they no longer have access to them, they might say, oh, I might as well whitelist them because I have no longer access to them in the first place. Now, they might not be smart. They probably won't think that, but that provides them the opportunity to do the right thing and whitelist you. After that, that person sends you $1 or a single money, so now it's yours. Or you, better yet, just reload the slot that you're on, which is possible by doing menu, load, slot, and then reload your slot. And then at that point, those items, if you're whitelisted at the time of reloading your slot, are now yours. All right, hopefully that video wasn't too long. I want to talk about a couple strategies for trading, and the safest strategy to trade, what trading is, how to make trading more easy, by having more rare items and having a shop, for example, how to trade boxed items and unboxed items and loose items and wood even, and just general tips for avoiding scams. Hopefully this video was helpful. I wanted to have a very all-inclusive, very complete ultimate trading guide and avoiding scams guide for you all. So hopefully you can use this and to more safely trade with other people in the future and to avoid scams as much as possible. So if you did enjoy, if you did learn something new, or if you didn't, please just still drop a like and subscribe. Leave any comments you may have in the comment section below. Turn on the bell so that you'll be notified whenever I do upload a new video. And without further ado, I will see you guys in next week's video. Hope you guys have an amazing week. Peace out.